everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to give you guys a harmony guide on what characters you should be harmonizing, giving them extra 2 memory so that we can get extra effects on your characters. And I can tell you guys that your amplifiers are going to be pretty much numero uno when it comes to this, because they're just going to add so much damage for your entire team because they are amplifiers. They make a huge difference. The other thing that I would say is that there's a couple damage dealing characters that you could also do this to first, because even to this day, they're still meta in the game, on the CN version of the game, and they're absolutely godly, and they pretty much just do solos for the most part when you're playing with them. So the difference in having harmonizing for them can be huge as well. So we'll start with the amplifiers first, guys, and we'll just go ahead and start with Liv. Now, when it comes to your amplifying characters, you want to make sure that you are using their original 4-piece sets that are equipped on. So for Liv here, you want to have the Elizabeth set. Now, what I would recommend for you guys is using a 4-piece Cotty with your Liv. I think this would be insane because Liv's damage is really all about her signature move. And whenever you do your signature move, you're going to get a lot of extra damage, guys. This is huge for her. So this, I think, would be very good. Now, if you're using her as a support character, what you could do is you could just have a 4-piece Da Vinci with a 4-piece Guinevere. That would actually also be very good. You could use a 4-piece Da Vinci with this set as well, with her original set. That actually would also be very good. But if you don't have the Cotties, it's going to take a little bit longer to build up your signature. I know a lot of people, especially if they have her at double S, they have the Cotties on her, and that it's kind of one of those things, guys, with the amplifiers, because they're support type characters that, you know, if you're using them in Pain Cage, then I would recommend having a 4-piece Da Vinci with 4-piece Guinevere on them. Or a 4-piece Da Vinci with a 2-piece Guinevere, and then maybe like 2 lanterns, something like this, or 2 Glorias that actual elemental resistance. You could do that too. So you could have 2 Glorias, you could have 2 Guineveres, and a 4-piece Da Vinci as a support character only for Pain Cage, not for Warzone. But for Warzone, you could have a 4-piece Da Vinci with the 4-piece Elizabeth on Liv. I know it gets a little confusing, guys, but that's because there's so many different ways that you can actually build these characters. Now, let's go on to the next amplifier, which we're just going to scroll down here and we'll just go to the next one that pops up here, and that's going to be Ayla. Now, Ayla's in a pretty different situation because she is the strongest ice character in the game. She's the most powerful of all of them, so you're not going to really be using her as a support. You're going to be using her as a solid damage dealer, so I don't really recommend putting a 4-piece Da Vinci on her just yet. Whenever future ice characters show up, like Chu and Wan Chi, well, then it's going to be a different story. But right now, you're obviously going to be running the 4-piece Align on her, and then you could also run, I mean, you don't want to run a 4-piece Darwin, but you could run a 2-piece Darwin with 2-piece Guinevere, or you could have 2 Glorias, 2 Aisnas, 2 Guineveres. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you can do her, but because she's a damage dealer, you want to make sure you have her 4-piece on her, and you want to make sure that you have other memories that are just adding solid damage. So 2 Darwins, and also 2 of these Gen Juans. I probably mispronounced that, but these 2 pieces give an increased attack up to 10% in total, increasing her ice damage as well. So for a damage dealer, I think a 2-piece of the Gen would be really good with 2 Darwins, and then a 4-piece of her Align set. I think that would be actually a really great choice for the character. And then we get into Selena, and Selena, because she really does a lot of damage, especially off of her signature, I would recommend, if you're using her as a damage dealer, use a 4-piece of her Seraphine set, and then use a 4-piece Cotty. I think that would be very strong for her if you're using her as a solid support. Similar to Liv earlier, you want to use a 4-piece Da Vinci. You could use a 4-piece Da Vinci with the 4-piece Seraphine, say for Warzone if you want, and for Pain Cage, you could use a 4-piece Da Vinci with a 2-piece Guinevere and a 2-piece Gloria, just like Liv, and that would make her super OP as a support. Remember, in Pain Cage, you're just doing a one and done. You're just trying to get a one-shot with your main damage dealer. So the more buffs you have on your support characters, the more damage you're actually going to do. But that's pretty much what I would go with Selena. And then for the last amplifier, which is Echo, guys, obviously you're going to be using her 4-piece Signa. This is going to be the way to go for this character. And then you could also, you don't want to use Phillips, guys. You could use a 4-piece Da Vinci, just like what I said. So in Warzone, a 4-piece Da Vinci with a 4-piece Signa. If you're using her in Pain Cage, it's going to be the same thing, kind of like what I said earlier. You're going to use a 4-piece Da Vinci with maybe a 2-piece Phillips, along with a 2-piece Richelieu. I think this would be actually very, very good for her as a support character. And like with all the other amplifiers, you could even put the Lantern set if you do have 2 of these available, along with a 2-piece Phillips and a 4-piece Da Vinci for Pain Cage. I mean, when it comes to Pain Cage and Warzone, it's just going to be 2 different things. Your amplifiers in Pain Cage are going to have a 4-piece Da Vinci with either 2 Guinevere, 2 Phillips, 2 Einstenas. They're going to have some other kind of support memories that's really going to buff them up, whereas in Warzone, you want to make sure that you have their 4-piece actual sets equipped with a 4-piece Da Vinci. This goes for all the amplifying characters. Now, the next character that I want to get into, guys, is a damage dealer, and this is going to be the most important one. Well, not really the most important, but I think the most relevant, because Alpha here is just relevant even to this day, and she's going to be relevant for a long, long time. So what I would recommend for Alpha, guys, honestly, it's pretty simple with her. Use her 4-piece Diesel and then a 4-piece Cotty. Her damage off her signature is ridiculous. Just absolutely insane. And by the way, you don't have to do or use the memories that I'm telling you to use. You can build these characters any way you want. There's multiple different ways to do it. But personally, guys, I would go with a 4-piece Cotty all day, every day with this girl, because you're going to do her signature over and over and over, and she pretty much does those solos, so that's kind of what I'd recommend. And pretty much the same thing for Bianca. For Bianca, guys, you want to run her 4-piece Charlotte, and you want to run a 4-piece Cotty. I think that is still the way to go, because similar to Alpha, she just does so much damage off her signature. I mean, it's just massive, my friends. Now, you could do, like, you could have 2-piece Low and Hook if you want to increase that damage by 10%, and then have a 2-piece Cotty to give yourself a little extra quality of life, so that way you can actually get off your signature a little bit more. You can do that. That's 10% extra damage. But with a 4-piece Cotty, my friends, it's just, I mean, you're going to get a lot more out of this, man. 15% more damage for 10 seconds. So that's kind of why I would go with the Cotty for both Bianca and Alpha. And as far as the other damage dealers, for example, in Dark, we have Luna. Let's see. Now, Luna, guys, I wouldn't do nothing with her. Lamia is going to be coming in the next update. She's going to replace Luna. So, unfortunately, I'm sorry, Luna. I just wouldn't worry about her, my friends. And then I would go with, you'd have Lucia here, and Lucia is going to get replaced by Chu. I think in around 8 months, something like that. Don't quote me on that, guys. It's going to be a while before she does get replaced, and it's going to be really difficult for you to get the materials to harmonize your weapons, so that way you can add extra memories. So I really would go for the characters that are going to have the more relevance for a longer time, which are the characters that I mentioned already. But Lucia is one that you could level up if you wanted to do so. There's a lot of different ways to do her. I mean, like, a lot of people have the 4-piece Hannah, or they have a 4-piece Frederick on the girl, which has actually been changed. So you could run a 4-piece Hannah with a 4-piece Frederick. You could run a 4-piece Hannah with a 4-piece Low and Hook. This is also a really good one that you could go with. These are choices that you could have, but again, I wouldn't focus on Lucia, guys, because again, she's just going to get replaced a little ways from now. But again, by the time that you level up these other characters that really you should be prioritizing, she's going to get replaced by Chu. And then we get into Fire God Lee. Let me see if I can find old Lee here really quick. And Lee is, unfortunately, whenever Lamia shows up, the Dark Team's actually going to be doing more damage than the Fire Team in Warzone and Pain Cage. Now, there might be situations in Pain Cage where you'll have a zone that's weak to fire and a zone that's weak to dark, so obviously you'd be using separate teams. So he's still a really good character to build, but he's kind of low on the totem pole because of that, guys. And he does end up getting replaced by Fire Lucia, but I mean, that is over a year from now. That's going to be a long time. But if you're going to be building this guy and you want to give him an extra couple memories, obviously use his 4-piece Turing and then use a 4-piece Shakespeare. I honestly think having the 4-piece Shakespeare, guys, is godly for this character. I think it's absolutely, I mean, listen, guys, fire resistance by 8% and deals 12% fire damage per second can be stacked up 3 times. That's 36% extra damage. I honestly would go with that Shakespeare all day, every day on that character if you're going to build them. And then we get into the tanks, which I really do feel are last, guys. Those are the characters you should build last, and I'll explain why as I go through here. But really, those amplifiers are just going to make a huge, huge difference for you, and I really do think that prioritizing them would probably be the best choice for most players. But we'll get into the tanks, and starting with Nanami. Now, Nanami is going to be replaced by Watanabe. Not too far, maybe 6 months from now, maybe a little bit less. So I really wouldn't recommend queuing her up. I wouldn't recommend leveling her up, or not leveling her up, but I wouldn't recommend doing the harmonizing for the reasons that I explained earlier. I don't think it's a wise choice, in all honesty, guys, to build her, because again, by the time that you, just like Lucia, by the time you harmonize other characters, you're just not going to have enough materials, and it's going to be really difficult to queue this one up. However, if you are using her, you do want to use her 4-piece Unimate here, and then you obviously can use a 2-piece Einstein on her if you want, or you could use a 2-piece Einstein with 2 Shakespeare. That actually would be very, very good as well for the character. And then when we get into some other tanks, let me see here, we'll go ahead and scroll down and try to find another sweet little tank here. And we get to Karenina. Now, Karenina is still a meta on the CN version of the game. She's still OP as hell. And you're going to want to use her 4-piece boon here. And I really feel like having a 2-piece Condalina is very good for this character. I think a 2-piece Condalina along with 2 Bathlon, or you could have her 4-piece boon with 4-piece Bathlon. That actually would be really good as well. The Bathlon's going to give her 3% attack, 7% dark damage. So I think personally for me, I would just go with the 4-piece boon and 2-piece Condalina. I mean, this 15% is nuts, guys. And then because her spin move is her basic attacks. And then also having 2 Bathlon, I think personally would be the best choice for her. But you could put 4 Bathlon on her, and that actually would be really, really good for her as well. So let's take a look at who's going to be next here as far as the tanks are concerned. Then we have, well, we actually have Vera. Now, Vera is still a meta on the CN version of the game. You're going to want to use her Tifa set, obviously. You really want to keep the 2 Einstein on her, guys, but you don't want to put 4-piece of Einstein on them because it's when taking damage. Obviously, when you're playing, you're trying not to take any damage at all. So I would give her the 2 Einstein with 2 Heisen memories. If I can find the Heisens to show you guys what those things look like. Let me see if I can find the Heisen for you. 2 of these babies right here. Give her 2 of these Heisens, give her 2 Einstein, and then the 4-piece Tifa, and I think you'll be pretty much good to go as far as Vera is concerned. And then we have Chrome, who, I have the 4-piece Da Vinci on him because obviously Ayla is the strongest character for the Ice team in the game currently. So a lot of people run the 4-piece Da Vinci on Chrome. They have a 4-piece Einstein, a 2-piece Einstein on him as well. But you could also give him the 2-piece Jin Juan. I think this would be a great choice because you're going to add that extra attack and that extra ice damage. I think that would be a wonderful choice for this character, in all honesty. And then for the last tank, which is Rosetta. And Rosetta actually does get replaced by Han Ying in the future, but that is a long ways down the road, guys. Way down the road. Almost a year, maybe about a year. So it's going to be a while before she does get replaced. But you want to make sure that you're using her 4-piece Lowen Hook on her. And then you want to have the 2 Catherines so you can actually buff up your physical damage dealer in Bianca or whatever other physical character that you're using. And I would go with the 2 Catherines, and I would probably go with 2 Darwins, or you could go with 2 Fredericks as well. Fredericks is one that I haven't mentioned here very much at all, and they have been buffed up. The Frederick actually has been buffed up right here. And, now, whenever you trigger the Matrix, you actually get that extra damage reduction by 15%. But it's only for 4 seconds, which is why I mentioned the Kadi earlier, because your buff actually lasts for 10 seconds whenever you're doing your ultimate. So I think it's a lot better, personally, than the Frederick. But the Frederick can be a really good set, especially with the 2-piece added, man. I mean, each dodge adds an extra 5% damage. This can get up to 15% damage extra. So 2 Frederick, I mean, obviously you got to dodge, or just put Darwins on where you're just hitting your orbs and building up damage. Personally, I think that the 2 Darwin with 2 Catherines and the 4-piece Lowen Hook would be really the way to go for Rosetta. Now, this is all my opinion, guys, as far as, how I think that these characters should be built. I know I didn't go over every single character in the game. I pretty much went over the metas and just let you know about when maybe some of these characters will get replaced. But if you really want my honest opinion, guys, I really think that as far as when it comes to harmonizing characters, you really want to go for your amplifiers first. I think that Echo would be a wonderful choice because it's the newest amplifier there is. I think 21 would also be very good. She's still a meta in CN. I mean, you can go that route, or like I said, Bianca and Alpha are still insane damage dealers that you can use. Don't get me wrong, Lee is too. But just like I said earlier, the Dark team is actually going to, I mean, if it's anything like CN, the Dark team is going to be doing more damage than the Fire team in Warzone and Pancake. But again, there's those situations where you might have a Dark Pancake and you might have a Fire Pancake all together, right? 2 separate ones where you're going to need both teams. And in that case, you really would want Lee built up as much as possible. So hopefully this video will help some of you out there as far as deciding maybe who you want to harmonize and maybe what memories you want to harmonize them with. So let me know what you guys think about the builds that I've offered for all these characters. I know that there's going to be maybe some differences of opinion. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different ways that you can build your characters, but personally, I think the way that I presented them to you is really the best way from the experience that I've had in playing PGR. But again, let me know what you think, and I do stream on Twitch and YouTube, link Twitch in the description below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. See everybody. Take care.